All right, let's talk about gaining shell access. Now, this should be somewhat of a refresher video because we covered a lot of this in the mid-course capstone, but I just want you to think about what you can do now that you have a credential. So far, all we have is a credential, right? And we're going to see what we can do with that credential. So the first thing I want to do is I want to boot up Metasploit. And we'll say MSF console. And if we have SMB open and we have a username and a password, well, then we can use that username and password, and especially if that user has a machine and they're a local administrator, to gain a shell. We can use that with psexec. So we can search for psexec, or if you know the Windows exploit SMB psexec, you can do that as well. So here it's use 10. It's line 10 right here. And we'll just say options. Now what we can do is we could set the R host. So we know the fcastle machine is at 192.168.57.141. And then we have to say set SMB domain to marvel.local, set SMB pass to password 1, and set SMB user to fcastle. Okay, we could say options here. And we could try to run this, but we need to run this with the appropriate payload. So let's go ahead and just set the payload right off the bat with set payload Windows. We're going to say x64 interpreter and then reverse TCP. And we'll go ahead and say options, make sure everything looks set. Let's go ahead and set an L host as well. So we'll set the L host to Ethernet 0 here. And we'll go ahead and give this a run and see what happens. Now, this doesn't always authenticate on the first go, and it always doesn't authenticate with the first automatic targeting. So we may have to give this a go with a second attempt, or we may have to give this a go and see it's not working here. We'll give it a go one more time. Looks like it's doing PowerShell. PowerShell might not work here. We might have to try a different target. So it's always good to explore your targets here, and psexec is one of those funky ones where either it's going to work or it's not going to work with that specific one. So let's show targets. And we've got automatic PowerShell, native upload, and MOF upload. So let's go ahead and just set target of 2, and we'll run that. And we've got a virus detected. What happened? Oh no. So if we go to our Windows machine, you may have heard the ding. We've got a virus detection here. So what's happening is that we are blocking this virus with the psexec, right? And somehow Windows Defender got turned back on. Don't know how that happened, but that's okay. If yours got turned back on, that's fine as well. This is a good learning lesson. So psexec's getting blocked. So what if we can't psexec? Okay, let's try something different. Let's go ahead and let's try a new tool. So let's go ahead and let's try psexec.py and see if that works. Let's do a --help just to see how this looks. This should be familiar to you, right? We're just going to use the domain username and then password at the target name. So all we're going to say is marvel.local, and we're going to say something like fcastle. And then we'll give it the password 1 at 192.168.57.141. Run that. Apologies, it's a /. Try that. Okay, and look here. So Meterpreter got picked up, psexec.py did not. Okay, we got a shell with psexec.py. Now, this is a little bit more obscure. This is not infinitely more obscure. There are still antiviruses that are going to pick this up, but Windows Defender, which I love Windows Defender. Windows Defender did not pick it up right here. So bad on Windows Defender, but still here we are. We've got a shell in the system. Now we could take this and we can get a little bit more quieter. So we can say Control-C and kill this. And we can go in and we can do SMB exec or WMI exec. We could say SMB exec like that. And that one didn't work. Okay, let's try WMI exec and see if we can get that one to work. And this one doesn't look like it's going to work either, which is okay. So we need other options. And this isn't the first time you're seeing any of this, right? We saw this in the very last video of the mid-course capstone where we can try SMB exec and WMI exec and just be familiar with these tools. So what you have, and what I'm trying to point out here, is don't give up on the first tool. You have at least 4 options I just provided you here. And if you saw in Metasploit, we actually have more than that. We have a PowerShell feature as well. If we scroll up just a little bit, there is a PowerShell version of PsExec as well. So don't just give up at the first one, and know that there are multiple options. And if I Alt-tab back into that, you could see too that, we were able to get in with our PsExec, but we weren't able to get in with our WMI exec, or we weren't able to get in with our PsExec on Metasploit either, right? So it's important to know that we have all these different options available to us, and that PsExec is one of the more noisy when it comes to antivirus. So I would avoid starting here. My pro tip, is to start with something like SMB exec or WMI exec. See if they work, see if you can get a shell. If you can, what you can do, they're only like half shells is what they're considered. They're not fully interactive, but they're good enough to navigate around the C drive. You can issue commands with these. There's a lot of things that you can do. So what you need to do is you navigate around and you issue some commands and you say, hey, let me figure out what type of antivirus, if anything's running. And then once you figure out what's running, try to see if you can't disable that antivirus, so then you can run something more robust like Windows Meterpreter, or Meterpreter on Windows, because it just does so much more for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to disable that in Defender. I'm going to make sure that that's all disabled again. If yours re-enabled, just go ahead and disable it as well. As we move forward, make sure those are disabled so that we can perform some of these other attacks with Metasploit. And again, the tip here is to make sure you get in quietly first, go in, navigate around, try to find the antivirus that's being used, then attempt to use something like PsExec or even another method in Metasploit to get around it. So hopefully that all makes sense and you don't give up at the first failure. So that's it for this video. We're going to move on to IPv6 attacks next.